What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to part 2 here. I want to say, first of all, thank you to all of our Tuffy Talk channel members for, again, being part, really helping support us. Again, even though it's only $1.99 per month, it really does go a long way in helping us, again, not be rich, not even really make a profit off it, but just, so that way we can do it without having to, to limit our expenses, really. So again, really do want to say thank you so much for your support. If you haven't checked out part 1 already, make sure to go check that out as that is publicly available, and then come right back here to check out part 2 as we will continue through really the meat of this roster breakdown for what in-state wrestling fans can expect this year. As always, if you saw part 1, you know who we're joined with here. Obviously, Greg Legg, but the one and only Robbie Wendell as well with Intermat Wrestling. So obviously got a great crew here, and obviously, Robbie, thank you so much for your time once again. So really kind of where we left off. Obviously we talked about, talked about Jared Trombley, the crazy news about, Camacho, Kai, and then Ryan Jack. But then now we're kind of getting to some of the new guys. Obviously, got to start off first with, Jackson Arrington, who was a freshman, out of high school. He was ranked as the number 16 overall recruit and number 6 overall at 152 pounds. So definitely one of Papaliccio's big recruits. And again, I mean, hey, another Pennsylvania guy. Again, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's in the water, but for some reason, every single Pennsylvania boy seems to just have that wrestler mentality that just obviously grows through them. But obviously, unfortunately, Jackson lost to Jonathan Milner. But I immediately say that saying Jonathan Milner is the number 6 overall wrestler right now at the 149 weight class and lost 6-0. So he didn't even get majored, which to me I feel is pretty impressive for the most part. And I think that's really the story for all the new guys we're going to touch on here. But first and foremost, what were your initial thoughts on Jackson there, Robbie?
Not surprised that he's ready to start. He's really seasoned. He came in this summer and really got after it. Had a lot of good things to say about him going into preseason, and he's clearly ready to go. Him and Finn Solomon were another true freshman, were the 2 finalists in the wrestle off. So clearly that weight is going to be held down for a few years by some pretty talented kids. Yeah. Pretty tough to go against Milner out of the gate, but he wrestled well, held it to a decision. Saw some good things. He didn't put any points on the board, but he was really close on a couple counters. But I think he'll be good. He's got some talent for sure.
Yeah. Well, again, I think if you're going to compete, first of all, if you're going to compete at the top of the ACC, with the other beasts in the conference of Virginia Tech at this time, not to necessarily say that there's not other great wrestling programs, but, Virginia Tech is a program that will, predominantly always have, a top 20 or top 30 wrestler in pretty much every weight class. And so we definitely need to have that too. And I think we finally have entered that conversation. Just like you said, Jackson Arrington, who's again a freshman that has come in with a lot of expectations. Obviously not necessarily starting off his career with a win, but and I'm sure there's definitely no such thing as moral victories in wrestling, but I feel like that there's every moral victory here to be had. Greg, being there in person, any initial thoughts from watching Jackson?
Yeah, I didn't really know much about him going into that match, and then when I kind of was, kind of doing the live tweeting, and I was just trying to find out who was, I guess, I saw that he was a true freshman, and then read his stats, and I was like, dude showed out. I mean, I thought he had a couple of opportunities where he could have been a little bit more on the offense. I thought that he wrestled well from a neutral position. I thought he could have maybe, had a couple more strikes at Milner, but he did his thing, and I think he's gonna be a good one to watch. I don't know how much noise he'll make this year, but a year or two down the line, there's going to be something there. But you brought up something interesting, Robbie. I want to touch back with you on Finn Solomon. Do you see him more at the 141 or the 149? I know he's listed at both, and I know we have Jack there at 141. So what are your kind of your thoughts? Maybe seeing how that plays out in the future.
I think he'll probably stay at 49. I would guess that one of them will go up at some point. But it's going to kind of be a battle between that. But that's what Pat's built. I mean, with his recruiting, he's done a phenomenal job recruiting. He's brought in great recruiting classes, and there's fights at pretty much every weight to have a good starter. So somebody's not going to be starting. That's going to be a really talented wrestler. So there's going to be that spot, and that's what it happens on good teams. So.
Yeah, but I think it's also good too, case of injury, right? Because I mean, this is a sport where injury could happen at any moment. God forbid you don't want it to happen, but at least you position yourself to where, especially when you're in NC State, where you want to compete for a team championship, you definitely need that depth built into it. So I think that's a good luxury to have.
Well,
but if you look at the ACC at 149, though, it's wide open. It's a lot of true freshmen.
Sure.
So Tech is Caleb Henson, who's is a really talented true freshman as well. Brock McMillan up in Pittsburgh is true freshman. So there's half the ACC is true freshman. I think Verclaren is the lone senior.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, obviously,
and Sherman.
Right. Well, and obviously you got, Wrangle, Mania here coming up here this weekend, actually, which will be the first. And then, you obviously got, you're facing Central Michigan and Illinois, the following weekend. So I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if honestly Hall and Pop kind of views, these invitational opens here as basically kind of a tryout, basically, Solomon, versus Arrington, let's see what happens, and I mean, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, especially against Nebraska, which is a big time wrestling program, and, see what happens. Just like you said, it's wide open. So what a perfect time to really find, kind of our next, weight class leader in the 149 the 149 weight class that can, be our ACC contender for next 4 years. So,
Well, the competition they're going to see this weekend too is a lot better intro than a two-time All-American. You got two guys who are both new starters for Lock Haven and for Nebraska. Ridge Lovett just announced that he's redshirting, so the national finals from last year's not at 149. He's redshirting this year, so he won't be there this weekend. So it's going to be a young guy that Arrington's going to see there as well. So it's going to be good competition. And then on Sunday they have the Journeyman Classic, which is like a pool format. So it's a lot of teams, some of the teams that are wrestling on Saturday, and then some other teams come in as well. And they do like a round robin pool. They kind of match them up based on age and experience and where guys are at and what level they're at. So that's where a lot of the younger guys are going to get some matches this weekend. Pat said he's bringing up a pretty big crew. They're all going to wrestle attached. So we'll see a lot of people going on Sunday that we won't necessarily see in the lineup on Saturday.
And real quick, you mentioned that. What kind of TV exposure is there out there for this? Are they, do you have to subscribe to something?
The Wrangle Mania is on Rockfin. I believe the collegiate class or the Journeyman Classic is as well, but I'm not 100% sure about the Sunday event. But
okay, no worries.
If you go to the Journeyman Rockfin page, they are streaming the Wrangle Mania.
Okay,
gotcha.
Good to know. Now, moving along here, so one guy I think definitely needs no introduction is Mr. Ed Scott himself. Another guy that has been absolutely impressive for sure. Definitely going to be a national contender for at least the next 3 years if everything stays healthy and stays well as it should. Obviously another guy that had some controversy last year, and the fact it seems like it gets called often. Basically, for those that aren't sure what I'm talking about, in the NCAA tournament last year, it was the blood matches, right? Blood round. So basically, you win, you get All-American status, and don't remember who he was going against, but just all I remember still to this day is him basically getting taken down, and it was basically a roll. And during the roll, the ref called it a pin, but I mean, it was clearly a roll, and obviously Ed Scott and Papalizia both went crazy, but as we all have learned with, Ryan Jack with Iowa, and then Ed Scott with this, and then with Tariq Wilson 2 years ago getting pinned in the NCAA tournament as well, that unfortunately you cannot review a pin. We have learned that, unfortunately. And so, in my eyes, All-American for sure. I mean, the fact that he only lost one match all season until the NCAAs, and the one was basically that he lost was a fluke just because of the fact that he just went too hard too quickly.
Yeah.
And then Coach Hall just admitted that he just made a freshman mistake, went too hard, and just lost all his energy and just got taken advantage of from there. So, I mean, to me, All-American, ACC champion, NCAA qualifier. And obviously starting off the year with a heck of a bang, going 14-5, major decision over number 24 wrestler in the country, Cody Bond. What's your thoughts on Ed Scott and Robbie, and where do you see Ed Scott potentially in the names of some of the NC State greats that we've put together there recently? Because I think the sky's the limit for Ed Scott, honestly.
Yeah, Ed's talented. I think first off, the call at the NCAAs was atrocious. I had a notebook full of bad calls. That was right up there with it. The Aiello lack of back points was right up there against Maxstein. The upside, though, is that Ed's going to see him on Saturday, because that was Peyton Robb from Nebraska that beat him in the blood round, and that's who he's going to see on Saturday. So he's got a little shot at redemption on Saturday.
Right,
so definitely tune in for Rockfin now. Definitely tune in for Rockfin. Dude, that's awesome.
But no, he's. I think you're right. Sky's the limit for Ed. Headlock. I think what we're seeing is that the big move potential there is always there. He's very explosive, can score points in bunches. I think the biggest thing with him is going to be learning patience and when to throw those attacks and not necessarily going full bore all the time. But he already does a good job with that. It's just there's times that he's going to need to be able to kind of idle down and control that pace rather than going full out of the shotgun the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So obviously, Greg, I know you were there in person. Anything to add about Ed, or do Robbie kind of wrap it up nicely? Talking about Ed.
I mean, Ed is like he's a Tasmanian devil kind of guy. Like the way he attacks, I think it was his match where he just power drove the Cody Bond. I mean, he was dropping him like it was hot, and he wasn't getting any extra points because he was riding them. But it looked awesome. Like, I was like, you should get style points for some of that. I know that's not a thing in wrestling, but I mean, he was imposing his will throughout that whole match. It was fortunate for Cody. It was only a major decision. Like, he didn't get just completely destroyed.
True.
But anyway, yeah, I think Ed is an amazing wrestler. I remember, the one moment I remember from the ACCs was when he got that pin and his mom almost fainted up in the stands, and everyone, all those state fans were like, "What's going on?" There was a commotion, and she was elated, to say the least. So
yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah, that was a weird moment at the ACC championships of so much excitement. It's what's going on? And then finding out what's going on, I was like, oh my gosh, she okay? And then anyway, so now moving on to we'll kind of pair these two guys together is again, they're kind of in the same boat of Don Cates and Brock Del Signor, if I'm saying that correctly, Del Signor.
So Brock's at 74, Donald's at 65. They're both getting their first shots at starting.
Yep. But because the reason why I kind of put them both in the same boat is, first of all, again, obviously first-time starters, but also too as well, I think that they're both. So obviously Brock, faced a unranked Will Miller, beat him 12-8 decision, and then Don faced a number 14 wrestler in the country, and Will Formato, and lost in overtime 3-2. So
on a controversial stall.
Yeah. So I kind of put them both in the same boat where obviously. They both made a statement in their own ways, there on Friday night. But, Robbie, first of all, I think every single wrestling media member in the country has something to say about stall calls. And, obviously that is one reason why a lot of people, are saying, we need to figure out what the heck we're doing with stall calls. 'Cause unfortunately, and I'll say this for everybody, which I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably a pretty big wrestling follower, but if you're not, most all of wrestling calls are absolutely up to you. There's no black and white
judgmental.
To it. It's 100% judgmental. It's up to the ref what they want to call.
Yeah.
And stall is the absolute biggest discretion. There is no, like, if you see this, it's a stall. If you don't see this, it's not a stall. Like, there is none of that. It is just, I mean, Robbie, give us your thoughts on the stall. I mean, I don't know what more to say. There's nothing there whatsoever. There's no guidance.
All right, so you're going to be upset. I don't think it was a bad call.
Okay.
With the way that they are going to enforce it this year, it was exactly what they said they're going to do.
So fill that in. So what?
Yeah, because I didn't. Yeah, I definitely missed that. So please.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things with our sport too, is we don't do a good job of explaining rules interpretations and rules changes. And because of things like that, there's constantly changes because so many people were upset about stalling not being called on the edge. Now they're overreacting, and they're going to really focus on it and call it pretty much every time somebody goes out. So the way they're enforcing it this year, if you're backing out and not attacking or not making a motion to get back in,
on the
not
edge,
making an attempt to get back in, you're going to get hit with a stall.
Okay.
If you are pushing the other wrestler, just pushing and not making an offensive attempt, you're going to get hit with a stall.
Okay.
So they're trying to make it more black and white on the edge, but it's
well,
hard
by that,
situation
then
to do
I would
black and
probably, by what you're saying there, I would probably err on the side of it was a stall.
Yeah,
I thought he was twisting a little, but I'm also wearing red, so.
But the one thing which I will say, which the reason I kind of like that is because it kind of matches up a little bit with how freestyle is, with how their points are, and the fact that, I mean, if you get taken out of circle, the other person gets a point. So, kind of is in the same general ballpark, kind of forces somebody to realize where they are and not just use the outside of the circle as kind of a safety net.
A crutch, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
well, it's hard with folk style though, because, as nice as it would be to have kind of that black and white dictation of, a step out rule, it takes away so much of what we could do with our sport, because so much action happens, with one guy having just a foot in there. I mean, you can pin somebody with your toe in bounds. So if we have a firm step out rule, that takes away a lot of what people can do.
True.
So
good point.
It's a tough spot. They're trying to make it right, trying to get a good interpretation, and like any rule change, they're really going to hammer it at the beginning of the year. They're really going to focus on it and try to kind of ingrain it into everybody, and it'll settle down throughout the year and get more kind of leveled off.
Yeah.
Now, one thing which I do got to ask you, Robbie, because again, I wasn't at the match, and again, we're kind of going a little bit off of breaking down a little bit here, but it's because it's honestly the first time I've ever seen or even heard this happening. But apparently, there was a call that was called. The refs discuss, they reversed it, and then they video reviewed it, and they reversed it back. And so the point being is that I've never seen refs review and actually reverse a call. And at least to me, I feel like that's pretty rare that a call is reviewed and then reversed. For the most part, for 95% of calls I've ever seen, if not 99, it's always been pretty much stand, as called on the mat. So, I mean, what were your thoughts, first of all, on seeing a double reverse, but even two as well, just, I mean, is reverses really that rare, or am I just kind of being a little bit over dramatic on that?
And then, Robbie, before you answer that, I think it's because, and correct me if I'm wrong, they changed what one coach challenged this part of it, and then they reversed, and then the other challenged another technicality of that same play. Is that what happened? I think
kind of. So it was a takedown on the edge that they reviewed. An App State. It was in Kai's match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they challenged, or were going to challenge, that they had a takedown inbounds because Kai touched his hand down, which would give him control. So he's a down opponent. He's not neutral anymore if he's got his hand down. So if he's behind him with control with his hand down, it's a takedown. So they said Coach Bentley was going to challenge that it was a takedown because his hand was down. He threw the brick. The refs came together. The assistant ref said that he had the takedown. Through their discussion, they changed the call from a no takedown to a takedown. Then Pat challenged it for a video review to see if he did actually get his hand down, have his hand put down. So it was kind of a weird situation just because of the way it played out, but not a weird call to be challenged. The reviews, it's hit and miss, just like any review. If you're not doing it in the booth with somebody who's not on the mat, it's not going to be as effective. I felt for the most part it was pretty effective at NCAA's with a couple exceptions, and that was some of those were rule interpretations more so than they were actual issues on the mat.
Interesting.
But when the refs are reviewing their own challenges, it's I'd say probably 75-25 not getting changed.
Yeah, I mean, why would you overrule yourself? Yeah,
exactly.
Unless it's egregious.
If you're a good official, you're going to recognize that you missed something. And that's, I think we do have a lot of good officials. We have some who are a little more
not as good.
Yeah.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout Eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time wearing and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly room for improvement for a few guys. I think we have a few really good officials in the ACC. I think we have a couple who aren't as good as they think they are. I think you could probably pick out the one I'm talking about pretty easily.
And Robbie, keep in mind too. Again, this is for channel members only. This episode ain't got public, so you can say to our channel members that so and so sucks, and that's okay. So
he's not a good singer either, but he's got albums out. So if that helps at all,
nice. Okay, I like it. So cool. Yeah. So just to kind of wrap up again, I know we got a couple more here to touch on here before we wrap up here, but obviously with Don Cates and, again, Brock Del Signore for sure. Again, I mean, I think, both two young wrestlers that, again, we'll learn a lot more here.
I think Cates is going to be good.
Yeah, I think Cates is going to be the real deal for sure. But to me, it's still like, the potential is there. Now let's see what really happens here in these next 2 months here heading up to ACCs. Would you kind of agree with that, Robbie, or did you kind of see anything from either of those that kind of you see more potential there than we're even highlighting on here?
I was impressed with Brock. I know that him and Maddie Singleton were kind of going back and forth of, in the room of who's going to be in the starting spot. And we might see Maddie get some time in the lineup as well. Brock did beat him, I think like 7-4 at the wrestle off. So it wasn't super close, but they both scored. But I think we'll see Maddie in somewhere in the lineup to get him some experience and see how he fares. I was impressed by Brock. I thought I wasn't sure what to expect from him, but I thought he wrestled well. And I didn't know what to expect from Don either. He had moments that were really good. I think he didn't attack very much.
I was going to say the same exact thing.
It's tough with Formato though, because he's a really good defensive wrestler, and Bullard had a hard time with him too. I think he lost 2 or 3 in a row to him. So he's a really good defensive wrestler. He's very difficult to score on and can score off of your attack really well. And I don't know if Don was, slowed down by that or what it was, but I think he's a pretty dynamic guy. And if he's attacking, he's going to put points up, but I don't think he attacked that much.
Yep, I agree. So again, definitely excited to see, and again, just like we said, I think the great thing and the reason I scream out to all NC State fans is that if you're not following, because one insight I do want to give is that we have a video that we're going to be coming out with in the next couple of weeks where we did some NC State trivia. And I will say that one of the questions I had, and it's basically, and I'll give a little bit of insight for the channel members here. Basically, we did a video thing where we went around to people asking trivia, and if they got the answer right, we would give them $1. And so we have $1. So if you get it right, we'll get you $1. And one question I asked a few times is, can you name me an NC State wrestling national champion? Any one of them. And nobody could give me one. Again, I've asked 3 people, just picked randomly, and none of them could give me, any NC State wrestling national champion ever. And to me, that was just like a big, like, wow, like come on. Like, so again, it just goes to.
Were these current students?
No.
Or just fans?
Just probably in their 30s, if I had to guess, 30s, 40s.
So you're saying old then is what you're saying.
No, just not. You said students. So I just said, nope, not students.
No. I just was curious to who you were pulling. That's all.
But I mean, guys that, I feel like should know, but so it just goes to prove that again, that as much following as NC State has grown from Wolfpack Nation over the years, that there's still a lot more tap potential easily. Yeah. And I mean, again, because NC State every single year is going to compete nationally. They're going to compete in the ACCs. They're going to be, a top 10 team probably every single year for the most part, unless we just have an off year or lose a lot. So again, just got to continue to get more and more people involved. And and it really goes to a guy that I feel is is probably the definition of must watch wrestling in all of college wrestling. And that is the one that only raised the roof, air guitar himself, Trent Hidlay, the beast. And again, I think he's a guy that I love to watch. Like there's no doubt that him and Hayden, I think you could make an argument are two of the most entertaining wrestlers to watch for different reasons, and the fact that Trent obviously has his post match antics and thrown into it as well. But again, and I know we talked a little bit beforehand about how before the recording about how Trent was dealing with some illnesses, which definitely made an impact at NCAA's last year, combined with the fact that he probably should have gotten the number 1 overall seed, which would have helped him a little bit as well. But kind of Robbie, just, give us your thoughts on Trent. Obviously, the talent is there, no doubt about it. But what are your kind of thoughts in terms of the potential of him finally getting that national championship that the Hidlay brothers, both of them, have been earning for a long time?
He's right there. He's you can't get much closer to a national championship and not have one.
I agree.
He's definitely right on that edge, and I think he can make the jump. He's going to have. It's not going to be an easy road to go. But I think he can do it. I think he'll have one by the time he leaves Raleigh, and we've got a couple more years with him. So I think it's certainly possible. He's going. A 1-point match with the guy who's won the last 2 national championships, lost last year in sudden victory, and he wasn't at 100%. So he's there. I think he's continuing to improve. He's learning new things. He's doing things differently every year. He's not relying solely on one thing. He's evolving. So I don't see any reason he can't beat Brooks. I don't see any reason he can't beat Kekison. I think he can do it. I think he will. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year, but I think he can do it. Yeah.
And Greg, any additional thoughts on that as well?
Not necessarily about that, but I obviously, this is really my second year of getting into wrestling, and I came from the Hidlay brothers and stayed for the rest. So, they are the type of wrestlers, obviously now with just Trent, but they get you out of your seat. And every time he made short work of his opponent on Friday, and I think it was up like 13-0, and then he just pinned him. It's almost like a cat playing with a mouse. He's just kind of just toying with him, and then he's like, okay, I'm done with this, and move on to something else. And I think that's just kind of what he has in his arsenal. If he's fully committed, obviously winning the silvers at the U23s this year, let's not forget about that.
Very impressive.
He can compete with the best of them on a world level. So there's no reason to think otherwise that he can't handle his business at nationals this year as well.
Yep. So I completely agree with you on that. And again, it's the beautiful thing, just like Robbie mentioned, is he's only a redshirt junior.
Yeah.
So he's got this year and next year. So I completely agree that it's just a matter of time. And I think that whenever he does win the national championship, that there will be a picture of Hayden being the first to run to Trent, and them both probably bawling their eyes out together, and that is going to be a picture that will live forever in infamy in NC State minds forever, guaranteed. And it'll be on my wall for sure, is that Hayden deserved it, Trent deserves it, And so that'll be for the both of them. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it.
I'm telling you, if he wins a national championship, we need to start a GoFundMe so we can get a statue outside Reynolds doing this number, like,
yes.
or just move it in slow motion so it just automatically just moves. Like, yes. I don't know if you can do that to a statue, but I would love that.
With a broken chair behind him.
Yes.
Yes. So obviously two more. Obviously, got to talk about Isaac Trumbull, a guy that obviously came on strong his freshman year. Again, was Mr. Either pinned the guy or lost. It was either one way or the other. And then last year it was kind of more
masterful.
Masterful per se. And a guy that obviously is still, I feel like, in the growing stages. I mean, he's a COVID sophomore, I think is the terminology for him. So he's still got this year and 2 more years left. So still a lot of career left in him. But what's your kind of thoughts, Robbie, in terms of really getting him to really dial in and really finally take that next step to compete at 197, which I know is predominantly has been and probably will be a pretty heavy weight class in the ACC.
Well, he's getting stronger, which is part of it. He is really tall.
Yes, he is.
But he uses his length and his leverage incredibly well, and that's why he's so good on top. He uses it better than most tall wrestlers do, and that's one thing I've always been impressed with from him. He hasn't had a bad history. I mean, it's his freshman year he was 6-1, but they gave Reenan the nod for postseason. And then last year it was 21-6, 21-5, something like that. Had a solid year. Is really close to breaking through last year as well. So he's there. I think he's been working to get better on his feet, which is, where he's had more of a, I guess, deficit. He's a good attacker, but that's an area that he has room for improvement.
Yeah.
For the most part, he does pretty well getting off bottom, and he's super, super dangerous on top because he can get turns. Like I said, he uses leverage incredibly well.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing for tall guys to learn how to do, and he does it.
Yep. Yeah, no,
really well.
He's a guy for sure that I feel like, can kind of be in that, especially it's because one of the things I love about wrestling is that you could be in a position where it looks like one guy easily has the edge, but with one quick move of an arm or kick of a leg, it can easily be flipped the other way. And honestly, it could be flipped into a situation where the other guy is in a near fall position. Like that's how, close, and how, exciting wrestling is, because in a half a second, the whole match could easily be flipped upside down. And I think Isaac is, has been in those positions plenty of times, and especially with his length and with how, lengthy of limbs that he has, he can easily leverage that to his own benefit and really work out some tough holes, which also I think is the reason why even Tariq Wilson, with as skinny but as long as he was, he could easily turn a bad situation and turn it on its head and make it a good situation for him. So that's kind of where I see with Isaac in terms of where he could be really beneficial, but also too how, that dude's got to build on him, no doubt about it. So Greg, thoughts about Isaac?
No, I just like Isaac, period. He's a guy that enlisted in the Army after one of the matches last year, so he's awesome. He's already got to be a great American in my book. So
Amen.
I got nothing to say bad about the dude.
Amen.
And he's from Nebraska, so he gets bonus points.
We'll let that one slide, Robbie. You're our guest.
Absolutely. So now kind of wrapping it up with the weight class, I think has been the biggest
anomaly.
It's been the biggest weird situation, obviously, because I think that we all can agree that I feel like that in order to be one of those top contenders, you need to have a title contender at the 285, spot, just with how deep. I mean, last year, 285 was so freaking deep. I mean, obviously, and also too, it just goes to how dominant Gable Stevenson was, which, I don't think we need to really spend too much time in saying that, because I think there was actually a poll put out there of like, who was the most dominant wrestler that you've seen in recent times. And they had like Nick Snyder of OSU, Gable, and a couple others. And I was like, oh, Gable, it's not even close. I mean, that dude made a class that probably was one of the most deepest classes last year, and made it look like there was nobody even in the same ballpark as him, basically. And so it was basically just who gets to lose to him in the national championship. That was pretty much what was going to happen.
Yeah, everybody was playing for second.
But
Kyle was dominant when he was at Ohio State, but
Kyle
Gable
Snyder,
Mm-hmm. Gable's a freak.
Yeah, no, Gable's a freak.
There's no other way to say it.
He's an anomaly.
He's something.
Yeah. So now, I mean, so basically, kind of, my thoughts. Obviously, we had Nick Wisdowski, who again was our 2-time national champion. One of the greatest recent heavyweights, of the modern era of NCAA wrestling. And then ever since then, it just seems like we have guys that are competitive. We've had a couple of guys that have won ACC championships, but just haven't really taken that next step in terms of competing on the national level. And I think over the last 2 years, we kind of had that with Owen Trefon and Tyree Houghton. Two guys that have been that have had moments of light, but then just to me haven't really been shown any kind of next level of dominance yet. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, the one thing for me is neither of them have separated themselves from the other, right? So like not one person has taken the reins and just ran with it.
True.
Because they both split time last year, and then Owen this year got the first nod. And I guess, Robbie, my question is, do you see that continuing? Is that going to be a continuing trend for this year, or do you think someone's going to just finally take it and go, this is my weight class? Take a seat there, young buck.
We certainly haven't seen any indication that's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
My understanding is it's not particularly close in the room, but when they're actually getting out of competition, they're both, pretty successful about at the same level. Beating the same type of guys, same type of tier. And neither one have really broken through completely. Now I will say Owen's got the man bun now, so I think maybe that'll get him up to the next level.
I mean, for me, it's almost like one of those like pitching things, right? Like this guy does better against lefties, this guy does it better against righties, and I think maybe that's what you're just going to see is if they match up better against this guy, that's the one that gets the nod. I just feel like that's the direction where we're headed, and it's mind boggling. It's like just someone take it and run with it. Like let's go.
Well, especially too, because my point too is that one's a senior, one's a sophomore. So to me, it's like, listen, I mean, if they're both even, go with the guy that still has a few years ahead of them. That already has, that already made it to the ACC championship match last year, and competed. So it's like, just ride with him and let's develop him. Let's give him some experience and just see what happens. Not necessarily any knock on Tyree. I think he could easily be a starter on 90% of wrestling programs nationally, but just, again, if we have aspirations of, finishing in the top 5, at nationals, we got to have somebody that can compete, win a match or two, at the 285 weight class. And I think right now, you could make an argument that Owen, has shown it, but we'll see. Again, luckily enough, same thing as we said before. You got some opens, you got some invitationals to see if one of them could step out, but, in Pop we trust. That's pretty much all I got back to on that. So, but anyway, y'all. Well, again, obviously, want to say thank you so much again, Robbie, for joining us. Really do appreciate you joining us and breaking this down. Kind of gives NC State fans and even me and Greg too a little bit of insight in terms of what we can expect here from NC State wrestling, which I think should be another exciting year. And obviously it'll be crazy to see Hayden and Kevin Jack on the side as coaches. So which I think I love to see that with Pop. And definitely I'm sure we'll definitely see you at many NC State matches this year, and we look forward to it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, if you haven't already, Wolfpack Nation, make sure again to go check out Robbie, with Intermat Wrestling and check out all of his stuff. Again, he does it all for them, but just make sure to check them out. And also too, if you haven't already as well, make sure again to check out Rock Fitness. Again, we got that, Nebraska, match that should be a lot of fun, and specifically, Ed Scott,
Big Rob.
Yeah. So it should be an exciting match there. But again, and then obviously for us, if you haven't already, again, which I'm sure you have if you are a channel member, but just as a reminder, if you haven't already, again, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, give this video a like if you don't mind, if you enjoyed this, and if you want more wrestling content, and also to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now, on Twitter and Instagram if you haven't already as well. But thank you all so much for joining us, and make sure to check out all of our other exclusive Tuffy Talk content. Thank you so much again, and go Pack.